I think it's clear to see there's an over-medication in the U.S. in the first place. With this mental health stuff, people are so quick to be like, oh, I'm depressed, let me go take a medication.
For some, it's CBT. That's a very common one. It's cognitive behavioral therapy. DBT. For some, it's motivational interviewing. Like, try out different routes.
For some, CBD.
Congrats, you just got canceled.
We could go ahead and post black screens for Black Lives Matter, but if you're still a racist, that black screen did nothing. It's the same thing, bro. You can post about men's mental health mattering, but then you're still going to go out on social media and slander a man.
The minute you start being desensitized to this sort of work is the minute you're supposed to step away. Because the minute you lose empathy, you cannot perform to your best abilities.
Thomas Jefferson?
No, dog, the president? What is wrong with you?
Oh my God, wait, no, hold on.
Thomas Jefferson created gravity. When you look at Kanye right now, what he's doing, what do you think is going on in his head?
You're gonna hate me, but I really can't speak on it. I will say this though, I truly do hope if he is struggling with something or
should
anything,
he seek help? Yo, welcome back to the Heatin podcast, the hottest podcast in the game. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, like button, follow, rate, all that good stuff if you haven't already. But again, thank you for tuning into another episode. Today, we are in the new studio. But actually, oh shit, I'm going to be holding this one. So the new studio will already be revealed by the time this comes out. But
today, we are in the present studio.
The present studio. And we have our very first, if I don't hold it before others, our very first guest.
Maybe.
Now, that was the most lowest energy. Today, we have a very special guest. She is not only a U of A graduate bachelor. She's not only a master's degree
holder.
She got that shit. She's working on it. She is about to get her PhD in forensic psychology.
Hold on.
We have
almost
my sister, aka Doctor. Put some respect. Dr. Savina Bello.
Okay. No. Hold on. Thank you for the warm welcome. That was very sweet.
Thank you. That's my first intro.
However, I have only completed my master's in forensic psychology, so I want to preface this.
She's licensed?
By saying, no, I am not. I'm not licensed to practice.
She has treated many.
I have just...
She has at least 20 years of experience as well.
20 years in the industry.
In the game. No, but I am not a titled holder of forensic psychology just yet, but working towards it by trying to get my PhD.
But in the title.
Anyways.
But ethically, I'm just
Dr. Savina Bello.
Yeah, so no, today's going to be a good episode because I want to get into some real shit. I know we're always laughing, joking, making stupid shit, and we're still going to do that today, but it is a little bit more of a serious episode. I think the first thing I kind of want to open with in general today, first of all, tell me about like your studies, okay? You're getting your master's degree. You're about to finish. You're trying to get your PhD in forensic psychology. It's not an easy task, and you've been doing it. Yeah, you've been working really hard at it. Is this a field you would recommend in the first place to people? Because first of all, like it is a lot of schooling. Mm-hmm. Second of all, it's dark, which we will talk about soon. But what do you think? Like, how's the studies been for you? Like, just going into forensic psychology in the first place?
Honestly, it took me kind of a minute to realize I wanted to do forensics specifically. Like, I wasn't even sure when I went into college what I wanted to study. I took a whim on an AP psych course I took in high school. I was like, that was pretty cool. Let's try this out for real time. And I finally like switched over to it. But forensics didn't hit for me until I did my internship senior year of U of A for college. And there, you know, when you actually see court, you see cases, you see real life people getting real life impacted, you work on their case, you see the details, you realize this is actually a field I want to go more into and actually, you know, develop my research in. So when I got into grad school, when I was like, you know what, I think forensics and like clinical work is my route. Not saying that counseling, marriage therapy, school counselors aren't all incredible, whatever they're doing. It's just not my path. I tend to lean towards people who are more in crisis situations and more mature in a sense.
Okay, cool. I think so. I feel like people have this stereotype when it comes to criminal fields and psychology fields. Everyone's like, I don't. It's not to diss anybody, but everyone's like, I want to be a psychology major or something like that because they think Criminal Minds is the life.
Yeah.
But how realistic is this like stereotypical Fantasyland Criminal Minds. You're doing all this dope shit every time. How realistic is that to the actual work you have been doing?
So I'm actually one of the minority. Like, probably, I'm not joking.
We are minorities. We
Yes,
have been minorities.
besides that.
No, we really are.
But besides that, I'm like maybe the 1%er in forensic psychology that's never seen Criminal Minds, CSI, FBI, any of those. Never seen in my life.
That's actually kind of weird.
I know.
Since you're in that field.
Everyone says that all the time. It's not that I didn't get into it. I know I'd be addicted to it if I watched it. Why would I want to go into something sad and then come back from something sad?
You haven't watched the show, bro.
It's
a good show, bro. It's a good show, bro.
But it's not at all like the show.
It's not real.
There is no. Everyone talks about it. Even the ones like my best friend who studied with me lives and dies off a podcast of it, shows off of it, YouTube, anything.
The Heating Up podcast?
Possibly, yes.
So are you telling me they are a follower?
I would.
They actually
say
better be.
They actually.
No,
would be
no,
a subscriber. I'm pretty
no.
positive they're a subscriber. Yeah.
Okay.
This isn't a joke.
Yeah.
Like, we'll cut all this shit out right now. I swear.
Just burns in flames.
Just everything.
But it's not at all like there was like small moments where you're like, oh, haha, this kind of like feel like a TV show. Like when I go to court, I'm like, wow, this kind of feels like a movie. But no, when it comes down to it, it's a lot more work. Like they never show report writing, and that's like 50% of the field. Right there is just sitting at your computer going, oh my God, how do I talk about their background in like one paragraph? So it's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's mentally, honestly, I love what I do, which is why I can kind of power through. A lot of people do the same, but it's mentally exhausting. Like when I come home from externship for like 8-10 hours, I'm going straight to bed. You can't talk to me. I'm putting on American Dad. I'm watching Roger kill himself once more and then go to bed.
Can we?
Guys, please. I'm so sorry.
She's a forensic psychologist. She knows what she's talking about.
If anyone has seen American Dad, they know how insane
You don't have to defend American.
Please stop it. We don't need this canceled.
No, but that's cool though. Again, I figured it's not, but again, there's like so much stereotype behind it and everything, and it seems cool.
Don't go into this field if you're in it thinking it's Criminal Minds.
Okay, so what are some advice you can give to people who do want to go into this field?
Okay, for starters,
Like, what's the right candidate for a person who wants to? Like, I don't know. I might be going into forensic psychology. I don't know. Should I?
so
And they
they're
ask you.
psychology in the beginning, or they're
Sure.
like
Criminal studies and psychology. Similar, like that field side of things.
So if they come from criminal justice, which I know because I literally double majored in it. Their ethics code is completely different. Like they need to learn a ton of boundaries, pretty much. When they come from criminal justice, basically you can have rapport, you can build that connection with your client, let's say it. But when it comes to social fields like social sciences, social workers, all that sort of stuff, psychologists, we have to have a boundary between like, even if we build a connection, which we need to because I'm your like therapist, quote unquote, we still have limitations between one another.
So I was taking the audience.
Pretend like it doesn't exist.
Also,
just forget about me. Yeah,
it's different because like for business, which you should know, you know that side more. There is an ideal candidate for that field. Like there's a very specific
scumbag, a piece of shit.
But with the social sciences field, with psychology, there's not like an ideal perfect person. People can say like, yeah, like a person who has a lot of experience in it, who's very empathetic, who possibly had someone who grew up with the same mental illness, but it's not like you don't have to have all that. People can naturally be just good and gifted at talking to people and helping them. So at the end of the day, it's like, how are you flexible to learning? Are you very adaptable? You have to be a good writer. That one actually does not leave.
Yeah, this is not my field.
Yeah, Lord knows I'm not.
You have to be a human kind of communicative person. You have to be able to think on your feet immediately. Like if a person's telling you something quite dangerous, deep, anything where it could be like considered, oh, I need to follow up on this. You need to be able to like in 5 seconds think, okay, well, I'm supposed to also do this as well, but this is more important. So let me do crisis management right now. And then we'll get back to the topic.
Okay. I'm curious to hear your take on this. We're in 2022, about to be 2023, but actually this time it comes out 2023. What are your thoughts on, I know you're relatively new in this field and stuff like that, so it's a little hard to gauge, but it's pretty clear to see society has taken like a whole new route on mental health. It's a lot more glorified now. Like there's a lot more eyes on it. It's taken way more serious.
Yes.
But do you think there it's almost gotten to a point where it's, and I don't want to say it like it's like they don't mean anything like it, but it's almost coming to a point where it's oversaturated or overused. Do you think? Have you run into the cases where you're like, ooh, I think this person's like.
Like, do you think they're just using it to the point where they just need attention?
Oh, are they faking it, or like they actually have the diagnosis?
Like they're excuse making, or because you see it all the time. If someone gets called out for something, I have depression.
Gotcha.
And it's like, again, I don't want to discredit anyone because they could be going through a lot, and we all do. But what's the point where you're like, this is a real mental illness, or you're going through it versus, no, I don't think you meet that qualification to be like is there a distinguish? Can you see differences between now society and how like over projected, I guess I'll say, is mental health versus the people who are actually like
right
like really struggling?
So I'll preface this by saying I think it's been a blast, to be honest, to see that mental disorders and mental health and illnesses and all that have been more prominent in our society these past few years, because up until like 10 years ago, you would say someone has depression and they would still have that sort of like stigma against it. Not saying it's still not stigmatized, but it's like, it's kind of nice that people are a little bit more open about it today. Also, it gives, psychologists more work and more for the field, which is awesome. But when it comes to that sort of setting, it's a little different than what I do, because when I externed, it's like in the facility, it's like outpatient, they come to it's court mandated. So like really, it's not even volunteering. You have to come in, like you're required to by the law. So forensic is a little different than like, I guess, just regular counseling. But I always firmly believe that, and I think a lot of people believe this outside of psychology too, that you can't just have that one thing be your excuse entirely in life. You can't say, for instance, if someone's diabetic, you can't be like, oh, well, I can't go to this place because I'm diabetic. Oh, I can't go to this place because I'm diabetic, which some are valid reasons, sure. But like if it gets to a point where it's distressing your life, it doesn't sound like you're trying to do anything about it to make it a little bit better for yourself. Same thing with mental health. It's a very real thing. People take medication for it. People go to counseling. I think it's amazing. But I do think that mental health should not run your life. Like your disorder should not be your only criteria of who you are.
I honestly do agree with that, because I've seen I've seen people who use it as an excuse to not be able to get anything done. Like,
and it's unfortunate because
exactly,
it discredits everyone else.
Which is like, you look at it and you're like, I understand you're struggling, but you also have the power to be able to change it.
Yeah, and there are those few occurrences where, maybe they literally cannot. Like if someone is highly psychotic,
of course,
who needs inpatient treatment, like intensively, it's
no,
very different than MDD or something.
In most cases, you genuinely do have the power to get up and change it if you really wanted to. If you really wanted to.
I think that also comes down to it depends.
I'm curious to hear then, adding on to that, so I'll bring up a notable name, Andrew Tate. Oh. Okay. I'm curious to see, he has made a take on depression and how, and I've watched a ton of Andrew Tate because I don't like to make biased views without listening to long form content. I think it's unfair how they treat certain people based on clips. So Andrew Tate brings up depression and saying that like, he said it's not real. I think he's went a little back on it and been like, yes, like of course it is real. But his statement is that like, you do have the power to change it. Most of the time when you're depressed, he brings up, I don't mean to misquote at all, but he brings up how like, are you in the gym? Are you working on getting your body better? Are you working on surrounding yourself with the right people? Are you working on getting the right job, money, mental, like that stuff before saying, oh, I'm depressed, but you're out of shape. You're not doing anything with your career. You're doing all of these factors. You
surround yourself with horrible people. You're doing...
Isn't all of this a factor in mental health? So it's like, if you take that same person who said I'm depressed and put him in a situation where he has different things, is his mind gonna still feel the same way? I'm depressed regardless of what situation I'm in, or is it because it's situational depression? Do you think people go through a lot more situational depression rather than I'm actually depressed mentally? Or are they the same thing, do you think?
I cannot comment if like the statistics on it because I generally don't know if it's like they call it adjustment depression or anxiety disorders where it's situational. We have an actual disorder for that versus like some people could have it from genetic reasons and just overall.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't comment on that aspect. But I do think people have more power than they think to change things. I do agree with that. I don't necessarily agree with his quote. Like there are some things where I'm like, well, no, depression's definitely a real thing. Not saying everything he said was like incorrect or some things were misquoted, but in the aspect of like changing your life for the better, of course, has a good impact on your mental health. For instance, one of the biggest things that doctors of all types, including psychologists, say is, how's your sleep? Do you get enough sleep at night?
Do you exercise?
Exercise actually does not come up as often. The first are the survival needs. Like, you getting sleep? Are you eating? Do you have like enough nutrition? Like stuff like that. Then comes the secondary needs. Because for some people, like, yes, definitely staying active is a good thing for life in general.
I mean, I don't.
But not going to the gym necessarily. You can just go for a walk.
Oh yeah,
you know what
walking,
I mean?
going on a run, playing some basketball, just like doing honestly anything. I don't remember like what the quote was, but I heard that just doing exercise daily, even if it was for like 15 to 30 minutes, has a positive impact on how your day goes or like how your brain takes it, you know?
I could definitely see that being a possibility. I think that's a case by case thing. For me personally, yes, I agree. Like anytime I go to the gym or I work out, I think, wow, like that was a really nice start to today. You know what I mean? I'm feeling productive.
You know, and I mean, you're supposed to, when you go to the gym or you work out or something like that, it's supposed to hurt at first, but there's a satisfying feeling afterwards.
You feel proud
you're
of
like,
yourself.
wow, I really did that. You know, I feel like I can do anything now. You know, it's like that.
And that is, and again, it's not just the analogy of gym. Like that is anything.
That's anything active.
Yes.
Yeah. That also could be creative.
I do want to bring up, you brought up medication, and I kind of like to touch into this. I think it's clear to see there's an over-medication in the U.S. in the first place.
I agree.
I am curious to see what your take on that is because I personally feel like with this mental health stuff, people are so quick to be like, oh, I'm depressed. Let me go take a medication.
But get antidepressants.
That's the first thing.
You know?
Instead of, let me try to change everything I can in my control, and then still, if there's something wrong, then take medication. But it seems like it's always a first step. Oh, you're depressed? Here you go. Here's some bipolar. Here's some this medication. That's a different.
No, you know what? I genuinely do agree with him. I think that doctors think it's just easy to just hand out medication and then boom, problems solved.
I don't even want to blame doctors. Almost, I don't even know who to blame. Like, but it's clear to see there's an over medication.
But
in this
genuinely,
country.
the only people you really, you know, the only people you really can blame at right now is doctors. You know, they're not your therapist, so they don't know what's really going on. You know, maybe if you went to talk to a therapist and they're like, okay, have you tried doing this? Have you tried doing that? And if nothing's really worked, then that therapist can maybe go quote a doctor, you know, tell him, hey, he needs this type of medication, you know. But at some points, I genuinely think that it's, oh, you're depressed. Do you feel like this? Okay, we'll take you to the doctors. They'll give you medication and they won't try nothing else, you know?
So, yeah, what do you think medication is the route to go?
So I think it really depends. I personally have always been an avid supporter of, I think everyone needs therapy at the end of the day, not in the sense of like everyone's like mentally ill, but it's just nice
someone to talk to.
Exactly. It's nice to have that person where you're like, oh, you know what? I just want to vent about today. But I always think that your first route should be through therapy. Discuss it, see what options are available for you, see how intense it is for you, because everyone's different. Some people could be born with, schizophrenia, for instance, is a genetic mental disorder. You can't really
just fix it.
Even through therapy, it's not, I'm going to cure you of your schizophrenia. No, you're going to have that. It's a lifelong chronic condition. So I'm going to help you maintain and adapt coping skills for this. But you're 100% going to most of the time take antipsychotics, if we're being real. Not everyone, but most of the cases are like that. I always believe, though, your first route should always be therapy, counseling, something of that sort in nature. Discuss your options. And from there, try out any sort of treatment plan that works for you. For some, it's CBT. That's a very common one. It's cognitive behavioral therapy. For some, DBT. For some, it's motivational interviewing. Like, try
I like
out different routes.
CBD.
For
I
some
like
CBD, I was about to
THC.
say.
I like.
Congrats, you just got canceled.
THC.
But try those out. From there, if it's still not working, and don't give it like 2 weeks. Like, give it some
at least
time.
a couple months.
Give it a month. Yeah, give it a
month,
few months
2
or
months, 3
something.
months, you know?
Something along those. If it's still distressing you and it's honestly getting worse, then at that point, we might know it's a chemical imbalance and give you like something like that. But I do agree. I think antidepressants at this point are being very, very, like there's a
Very
surge-
commonly.
a surge in it.
Yeah, basically.
And it's a little upsetting to see because not everyone necessarily always needs it as their first route.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. What mental illness do you think is the most common right now?
Well,
gotta be depression.
I would say anxiety. And
I would
depression.
say anxiety.
Well,
I've
go hand in hand,
heard-
they're comorbid.
You know, but
Sometimes.
I've heard anxiety, like, just from people around me, you know, from things that I've watched. Anxiety is used a lot, like, as, how do I explain it?
I honestly, actually, that's a good point. I think
Actually,
everyone's
you
like,
might
"Oh my
be
god, my
right.
anxiety's
You,
kicking in."
yeah,
'Cause
that's
it's
what
a-
I'm saying.
Just out
They
of
use it
nowhere.
as
Yeah.
they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. Oh, it's because of my anxiety.
Yes.
Do you think people
Are you sure it's because of your anxiety?
not to like
You know,
shut
yeah.
on your question, but kind of to add, do you think people do not understand what they're saying when they bring up these mental disorders?
No,
Oh my god,
genuinely.
my anxiety's kicking in. Oh my god, I'm so depressed.
So if you're
That's what I'm trying to say.
Like,
yeah.
do you think there's an oversaturation because of people's like uneducation on the actual facts? Like, you don't know if you're depressed, but you're like, oh, I'm depressed.
that's also I think
Like, just not knowing.
I think it's a problem today. It's sometimes even people who have the disorder don't even know, which is okay. Like we don't always have to know everything about ourselves. Ideal world, yes. But yes, I agree. I think a lot of people, especially now with TikTok, I've seen I don't personally have the platform, but I've seen a ton of like clips on YouTube or something where it's like, you think you may have anxiety? Well, watch out for these 5 signs. I was like, that's not how anxiety works. Like,
Yeah.
that's not how mental health works. You shouldn't be able to do a checklist on YouTube and being like, congrats, I have testing anxiety.
Yeah.
Like, so
Based on those results, I have
based on
anxiety.
and I also think people are misusing the labels half the time.
Oh,
so when they're like,
The pronouns.
well, I mean, I guess it's the pronouns for mental health, but like,
Yeah.
I also when people are like, oh, they switch moods so often, they're so bipolar. Like,
Oh,
don't
good point.
throw that out like it's like nothing. It's
Yeah.
still a significant impact on someone's life.
I've honestly think that social media impacts how you see a mental illness as much.
I agree. It's definitely been which is cool because it's bringing to light basically what mental health is. I think that's dope. But it's not always the most accurate way of bringing it out. I think it's awesome that we can give it awareness, but I don't want it to be necessarily clickbaity. I don't want it to be like, oh, I have depression, this and this and this. And it's like, well, did you ever see a psychologist and get those diagnoses? No, but my friend has these symptoms and I have the same one. Well, then I don't know for sure if you have these. You might, but we'll never know until you go.
Until you go to a
So that's why
doctor.
it's just important to actually
It's-
go
yeah.
and figure it out instead of just making these like blatant assumptions, right?
I don't
Yeah.
I don't like saying these types of statements with no backing, no factual stuff, especially in our field, which this is why it's always so ironic too when I see these types of clips, because most of the time I don't believe it is actually a person who is from the field. I think it's maybe people who study the field, because one of our like ethical guideline or codes for forensics at least is basically how you present yourself in the media. And if it's misconstrued, you are supposed to go back in and correct it. So if people are like, if a psychologist is literally making a TikTok saying this is your anxiety symptoms and being like, check off if you have this, then that's a problem in itself.
Yeah. So I actually have to ask you this.
Please ask.
So I have this friend that I know. She actually deleted TikTok for a while because she thought it played into her like mental health, you know? And do you think that if you delete social media, you take a break off of it for like a really long time, or just use it less, you know, limit your time on it, because there's like options you can do that on your phone. Do you think it can help your mental health more? What is the mental
toll of the
yeah.
social media? Yeah,
Yeah.
Go ahead. You go first. What is your professional analysis on
So-
social media and mental health?
I don't have like the reports basically behind me, but I believe like even studies that I've read about is that having a maybe lesser intake of certain stuff that make you feel a certain way helps. Me personally, yes, I find myself whenever I go a break off of Instagram, which I don't even like using in general because it makes my mental health worse. I feel better overall. Sometimes taking a break from things that maybe like there's stuff on our feed that might trigger us or might like make us feel a certain way. I'm not sure if she has a specific thing that kept coming on her feed that just made her feel like a certain type of way. But yeah, taking a break and stepping away from that helps. Because think about it, it's like the same thing. Social media can be almost as tiring as like going to work sometimes. You're sometimes on there for 8 hours and you're like, oh my God, like this was a lot for today. So kind of taking breaks or distancing yourself whenever you need it, I think is a good idea. You don't have to outwardly delete everything. I don't think the answer is always like completely like go cold turkey.
Oh yeah, no.
But I think like if she thinks that a break is needed, then a break is needed. I don't think that's a problem personally.
Do you think, now that you've been in this field, I'm not going to air all your dirty laundry, but you'd say you have some mental health problems that you deal with on your personal side.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do.
And
Yeah,
I think so
for
too,
sure.
because now it's more studied, so people are able to identify it better, which is great. Do you think, forensic psychologist as yourself, do you think
Gonna be
more?
hopefully.
Stop it. Do you think a lot of them develop mental health problems within this field? Do you think it amplifies their
interesting.
mental health issues in the first place, dealing with all this stuff, or do you think it's able to be like maintained and it's okay? Like, how do you separate yourself from listening to all these like horrifying cases?
I've heard that, like it's the same thing for therapists. Therapists have their own therapists,
Yes. So that's not a myth. That's very true. In fact, a lot of places even tell you when you go into these types of fields, hey, do you have a resource outside? You might want to find one if not. Especially with forensic work, it is quite hard to kind of come home after a really hard case sometimes. So you would want that sort of outlet. So as far as like the field goes, I think it's like a hit or miss on that question. I think a lot of people have mental health issues maybe coming into the program, and it's just like, you learn to maintain it and stuff like that. It's not necessarily developing because of it. Some might not. Some could get better even with it after learning coping mechanisms. But I think I've never met a person in the field never have to talk to someone outside. Like let's say you didn't have anything growing up, but you're like 10, 15 years in the line and you've seen some really heinous crimes and all that sort of stuff. I saw it.
This is our
like,
professional.
So I think like at that point it could take a toll. Actually, in fact, one of the rules they tell us is like the minute you start being desensitized to this sort of work, where you start thinking like you're not caring as much, or you're like, oh, it's just like that one guy, is the minute you're supposed to step away. Because the minute you lose empathy, you cannot perform to your best abilities.
So, are you comfortable with sharing with us one of your craziest cases?
That is exactly what I was about to ask. Let's go, my boy. You so fucking good.
So, personally, and I know
Oh
this.
shit! Is there? Oh, you can't
there is
discuss
a
It doesn't
code.
have to be. It doesn't have
No
to be
details.
something
Of
you're
course,
not.
no details.
Like,
Oh,
just
you-
let us know
yeah.
the name, social security number. Like,
Just
It
simple
doesn't.
things,
It
really.
doesn't. It doesn't have to be something you're not comfortable with sharing. It doesn't have to be something that's taken a very big toll on you. Just something that
you've been
you
like,
know,
what the?
yeah, you found.
Like,
you were
how?
like, holy shit, this is possible to do. Like people think like this.
Okay.
What is the craziest
Then
case you've been a
Yeah.
part of?
Well, that's hard because I've heard about crazy cases and I've also dealt with like some interesting cases. I don't like saying necessarily crazy because it's a little
Interesting,
Typi-
crazy.
interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
So with like, I guess one surprising fact, I'm not going to go too in depth in it because one, ethical code, and then,
Yeah.
but
But you're not a forensic psychologist. Yeah.
it doesn't matter, bro. We're still, we're
You can break those codes. You don't
You
have
can't
to.
backtrack.
Okay, my bad.
You can't go oopsie. With one of the things that was really surprising about this field specifically is like expect the unexpected, meaning no age is like off target for committing. I have heard and seen people, prepubescent people basically get in trouble with the law, and having to help them with their treatment or be a co-helper of their treatment. And it's kind of amazing to see, like, wow, it's your upbringing and or your environment can really impact a person this bad. Like, we hear about it all the time, but to see someone in like a detention facility when they're not even 16 is crazy to me.
So
that's not enough. We need more juice. We need more juice.
What was the youngest and the oldest cases you've seen?
I cannot disclose. Sorry. On that part, I cannot disclose.
All
I know
right.
some people can, but personally, I'd rather be safe than sorry.
All right.
Because age names are usually...
How do you view one of like the most notorious criminals? How do you guys analyze them? Like the Ted Bundys, the Jeffrey Dahmers, the
main reason people
John
think...
Wayne Gacy. Again, these are notable names that people... John Wayne Gacy?
I have no clue.
The
who that
clown
is at all.
Clown killer?
Oh!
Yeah.
The young boys, yeah, man.
okay.
You should know about him.
No, I know about the clown killer. I just never knew his real name.
Anyway.
Questionable act.
Yeah, that one went over. But yeah, so these like...
Oh, okay.
These notable criminals, they're obviously... Bro, like in Jeffrey Dahmer, they wanted to study his brain when he died. What are your, like, do you guys talk about these criminals in your guys' field a lot?
Oh my God.
Are they used as examples? Are they?
Yes.
They are.
Holy... Like, can I curse?
Yeah.
Okay. Holy shit, dude.
A
Are
fucking course.
They're over...
Was he?
They're used insanely, actually. Because it's like sometimes it's the best example you can give.
Yeah.
So with like Ted Bundy, whenever we talk about like, you know, they can be a serial killer, you know, having multiple victims and stuff. A first person people think is like Ted Bundy. For class, maybe we might be like, oh, you see how they had this specific symptom as seen in this person. I think I did Andrea Yates like multiple times for my reports because she was fascinating. But yeah, like it's it's kind of like using Einstein for math. You know what I mean? For math and sciences. Like
I
it's
was like,
that was physics, but you know, I was like, same thing.
He's a mathematician, no?
he's a mathematician.
Oh,
I
he's a
think you're thinking
Gravity guy.
oh my
That's-
god, I'm
oh my
spacing. That
goodness.
is correct. Why?
Elon Musk.
No.
Can you...
What the fuck?
It'll come to me. I'll say it in the middle of the podcast.
Shit.
I'm spacing on the name.
I'm gonna bring it up.
Thomas Jefferson?
No, dog, the president? What is wrong with you?
Oh my god, wait, no, hold on.
Thomas Jefferson
yo.
created gravity.
No.
This just
Gravity?
Thomas Jefferson created gravity.
Wow, that really did space out on me too. Holy shit.
Space?
Ah.
Shut the fuck up.
I have to bring this up. I have to.
I'm nervous.
I already talked about it on the podcast. Kanye West.
Oh, I was like, good thing I'm kept up? Question mark.
No, I gotta bring up Kanye, bro. It's clear to see now that I don't know if he's
Mr.
unwell.
West.
Is he unwell? Like, okay, yes, he's been already diagnosed with like bipolar and like
I believe so, yes.
is narcissism. That's a real disorder, right?
Yeah, so
Is
it's
that
called narcissistic personality disorder.
and
It's
is
a
that
type of personality.
genuine? Like you could be like diagnosed
With
narcissism?
narcissism?
Okay.
NPD, yes.
NPD. Okay.
It's a disorder.
From your eyes and your standpoint, Kanye and the
This is going to crack me up.
the
'cause I know what
lash
you're gonna
outs
say.
he's had on these podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
his blatant like lack of empathy. What do you think is going on in his mind right now? What do you think, Kanye? Do you think he is genuinely going through something like an episode, or is he really true to what he's saying and he's just, or is this a whole publicity stunt? Even though it's Kanye, he don't even need it. But what do you think when you look at Kanye right now, what he's doing? What do you think is going on in his head?
You're going to hate me, but I really can't speak on it. He's not my client. If he was to sit down in front of me and air out exactly everything he's saying, at that point, and said some other deeper stuff, then maybe at that point I could start discussing like
But
a
as a
possible
viewer,
diagnosis.
as
I
a
can't.
viewer, what do you mean you can't?
I can't. So this is one of the things that, you know, it's like people on the internet do incorrectly, where they're like, I'm going to diagnose this person
these people
exactly off of a movie. For instance, they did it with Johnny Depp as well in his trial, where they're who is it? Mrs.
Amber Heard.
Yeah, but her forensic psychologist or psychologist that came on stand.
That girl, the
was
Curry?
like,
Curry?
No,
Dr.
Curry was phenomenal. I love
good.
her. Way to give her names really good like status. But no, Heard's psychologist or whoever went on the stand, they specifically said that Mr. Depp was portraying these types of like symptoms and has this disorder.
But you can't do that. He's not your client.
You have never met exactly. But he said, based off of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, that he portrayed this. So this is exactly what you're giving me, is like a clip and diagnosing. So I can't personally speak on it. I think he should
all right. You're not
definitely have someone to talk to.
I honestly think since Kim, that was just his downfall right there.
Since the divorce?
No, genuinely. I mean, since that divorce was, I think, where everything started to go downhill. That's when he started to like.
He had time to fix it too. On top,
he
of that.
definitely did, you know, but it just kept dropping.
I will say this though, like I truly do hope if he is struggling with something or
should
anything,
he seek help?
Well, I'm a firm believer everyone should. So yes, I hope.
Do you think he has good people around him?
No,
I don't. So the people he's now hanging out with, I don't understand who they are half of the time. Like he's been surrounded by people that I would say are searching for clout, pretty much. I don't think they're helping him. I don't know who he's hanging out with.
Like,
I don't think with his interviews it's helping him a lot, because all these interviews, these people asking him these questions.
Where's this person? Again, it's Kanye, bro. Kanye is something to study, bro. Because genuinely,
he might be. Maybe in 200 years.
This could be genuinely.
It's gonna be in a book.
All intentional. I don't know. We've delved into it. I don't want to go back into it, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts.
I would.
You gonna tell me after the podcast though?
Say again.
You gonna tell me after the podcast though? You know, just 1-on-1.
I'll
because I'm curious to hear your analysis.
I'll think about it.
I mean, you could have said this off the podcast too.
I know. We could have started off with this.
Yeah.
But no one decided to give me their questions.
Sorry.
Yeah, guys, she will discuss this with us after the podcast. Not a single person will hear about this.
No camera will be on.
Out everything. Completely breaks code.
Keep one of the cameras on.
Did you say keep us on?
What?
I don't even know if this picks up, but we're still working on these mics.
Keep one of the cameras on.
The joke is over. That's all I have, to be honest with you. I thought that was great. I thought that it was more serious than I expected. But it has to be right because we can't joke about mental health. So
it's kind of hard to be like, please seek
depression
help,
shit.
like, you know.
Yeah. Actually, okay. All right. I do want to ask you. You being in the field, you knowing what you know, you knowing how helpful it is to seek out help for this stuff, you dealing your own mental health problems, how have you viewed your mental health problems before you got into the field and now that you're in the field? Do you view them differently and do you weigh them differently?
So are we talking from undergrad or are we talking from grad school?
Before.
Just
this was a good question.
Okay, I'll start with undergrad and I'll do grad.
Undergrad.
I'll go into grad. So if I'm being honest with you, because I didn't exactly have the most training in psychology growing up, first of all, you know how our parents are, you know how our culture is when it comes to mental health.
Continue.
You have made everyone in the NBA disappointed
I
tonight.
Just made it. We'll check after. All right, go ahead.
Kobe is screening. So you know exactly.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's an.
All right.
I still got to find out that basketball player's name, by the way.
So basically, like, I didn't really have much information. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what it meant. And honestly, growing up, I was like, why would I go through such a thing? And even if bad things occur, I was like, why would I have it? Until junior year of undergrad is when I finally started.
No, he wasn't doing anything. No, yeah.
I burped, bro.
Oh, my bad.
I'm sorry.
Until junior year of undergrad is when I started actually, like, seeing distress in my life, seeing I'm getting, like, worse, if that makes sense. Like, every day almost felt like a chore. Like, I genuinely was like, I don't even know if, like, I want to do this. I don't know if I even, like, everything I used to love just stopped being enjoyable to me. So that's when I, like, started trying to change my life around.
What age were you when you started realizing this?
I knew something was up when I was for sure 16 to 18. Something was happening around that time, but not significant enough.
It was basically the same thing for me. I think as soon as I turned 16, I was going. You know the story basically. You know, as soon as I started turning 16, I realized that, dude, I got to change something. I got to start changing something.
You feel like
I
something's
didn't
off.
really
Yeah.
I didn't really change anything until November of last year, and I think that's when I started being like, I got to start hitting the gym. I got to start, you know, changing how I view things. I got to start, you know, just doing little things that make me feel good about myself
Happy
to be
again,
able to like feel like I can achieve bigger things during the day.
How much did you, knowing that you had mental health issues, play into you wanting to go into the field? Do you think there's more people that have mental health issues that are more inclined to go into this field? Or do you think there's not really like a trend behind it?
So let me just quickly finish what I was saying on the last thing, if that's okay. So
it's not.
anyways, I seeked help at around 20 type of thing. And then from there, I actually think I got better. With time, you kind of learn what you can do to adjust and better your life. By grad school, I had a really hard pitfall at one point where I genuinely was like, I'm not even sure if this is the field for me. Like everything just was kind of going to shit. But you kind of learn the tips and tricks that they tell you about, and you start implementing it, and you're like, dang, this actually works. Like, that's crazy.
So how old are you again? Like 32?
47. 20 years. No, 20 years.
She's 25, guys. She's
25.
she's young.
Sorry, what was your
My question, I guess, irrelevant.
No. You were saying.
It don't matter anymore, bro. I'm just gonna. Hey, let's wrap it up, bro. My question was, you realizing you had mental health issues, did that play a part into you wanting to go into this field and be like, I want to study this, I want to know, I want to understand, I want to learn more about it for myself? Are there any selfish reasons in why you chose forensic psychology?
Me personally, if I did, I was not super aware of it, or it was very minimal. And if I wanted to go into it, it would have been like simply coping mechanisms, like techniques I can use, breathing techniques I can use when I'm like stressed out, stuff like that. But it wasn't the ultimate picture for me. I always was kind of sure that, like, not to be like stereotypical, like I'm going to go help people. Of course, that's what the field does. But more so, I kind of was more curious than anything. I didn't necessarily want to go into the field to help myself. And of course I want to help them. But my primary reason was curiosity, was why did their brains work like this? Why would they do such a thing? Why did they think this was okay? Like, that was my main reason. And then once you finally start doing the research, seeing the people and actually interacting with them, you see like, oh, you are built differently. So this makes sense why you believe like this is okay when, you know, maybe legally it's saying the exact, it's literally like red signs everywhere going like, please stop doing this. So curiosity,
they
I would
just
say.
build different for them.
They just build different. Yeah.
Okay, you know me, how I viewed mental health a couple years ago.
Yes.
Okay, and I'll be real. I was like, this is bullshit, bro.
Skeptical.
Like,
you were skeptical.
It's not real. This shit is stupid. Like, it's not. You just don't think that way. Like, that was my mentality. I was like, just don't think that way.
Yeah.
And it's because I've been blessed to. I have problems, but like
I got problems.
but it's not like, yeah, it's not drastic to where like it's ruining my life, and I don't understand how other people feel. Yes, so I couldn't relate to that. Mm-hmm. However, there was points in my life where I felt like, oh, is this what it feels like? Because mentally I was like battling myself, and I was like, I've never felt this way before.
Demons. Yeah.
I didn't know how to feel about it. Do you think men's mental health now, because again, you're told to be a man, and I know it's opening up a lot more nowadays. Mm-hmm. However, men's mental health, I gotta be honest with you, bro. It's still bullshit to people.
Yes.
We're gonna go ahead.
Taken very lightly.
We're gonna go ahead.
It makes me angry. Trust me.
This is. I hate to rant about it, but this is ridiculous, bro. We're gonna go ahead and post men's mental health, men's suicide. Oh, well, let's post about it. But men are still treated like absolute garbage in like public. You can absolutely slander a man in public, but if you say one thing about a woman, it's completely invalid. You can't say that. Oh, that's misogyny. That's this, that. But then a man, you need to do this. Oh, he's broke. He's this. Do you think there's such stigma? Why do you think men have? Like, this is a key reason why it's playing into all these suicides and all these, like, I don't know. What's your standpoint on like men's mental health and how we say it's being taken more critical, but to be honest, I don't think so.
So I will definitely say that there are unfair advantages between
Very.
the two sexes. Now, sometimes, men have the upper hand, and other times men or women have the upper hand. Fun fact, by the way, little known statistic, that actually men are ranked highest for basically committing or doing everything, for being victims of crimes of everything aside from sex crimes. So for instance, women are more likely to be raped, more likely to be stalked, and more likely to be, I believe it's like kidnapped. It's something else related to like sex crimes. Men are the victim of everything else: murder, assault, robbery, all of that. So it's quite interesting to see that the mental health in the men's side is not being treated as, as a priority. I do agree. I think we need to get better at our stances with how we view and how we discuss mental health for men, because it is going to be different at the end of the day in some aspects. Like with women, if someone goes into therapy and they were maybe a person of rape, right? A person who experienced rape, how they discuss it is going to be a little bit different than how a man would discuss it. Men sometimes don't even bring that sort of stuff up because they feel shame or they feel embarrassment. And it's unfortunate because this is a safe space.
Because just like men have been taught to not be vulnerable. They've been taught to, take care of this, do that. But do not ever be vulnerable because you will get put down by other people. And that's how it's always been.
Today.
Like, it is
very,
yes,
very,
We're
very
gonna go
apparent.
ahead and say like, oh no, talk about it. And you go and talk about it, you're still gonna get shit on.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
it's like, how is men's mental health being respected, but then we still have constant disrespect, but on social media we want to go ahead and post, oh yeah, this matters, but in reality it doesn't matter, bro. That's what it shows. That's what
it genuinely really does seem like it doesn't matter. I've had multiple times where I felt like, oh, I really just want to talk to someone about this. I want to talk to someone about that. But when I think about it and I take the time to like sit down and be like, okay, who can I go to talk about this to? There is not a single person I feel like I can go talk about this to without feeling like I am being bothersome. I'm like, being annoying to them or just in general being like, what's the word?
So not me.
So that's when you seek out counseling, my boy. But
it still goes the same with counseling. That's the problem, because you go there and you're like, do I really want to talk about this? Do I want to seem vulnerable in front of someone I do not know? Because
but that's
it's hard.
Right?
But it's a lot harder to be able to go talk to someone that you don't know, rather than being able to talk to like him, because I've known him for so long. He's the closest person he's the person I'm the most close to.
I'd argue the opposite, though. I think there's a lot of security. The reason therapists are so popular and good, confidentiality. They don't know you. There's no personal bias.
There's no judgment.
That's the beauty of it, right? But I get what you mean. Like, it does feel nice to have people who care about you, who will also listen to you.
Yes.
And by the way, I want to let you know I'm here, bro.
And also,
for sure.
You said zero, and that shocked me a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. Like,
No, not like
it
was just like,
oh, sorry. Are we not fam? Are we not fam?
I was just for real. I was using it as an example. Like, if I'd say a year ago from now, I would say I wouldn't even talk to Jake about my most traumatic experiences. I genuinely wouldn't. There's only so little I've ever opened up to someone before to where it's like, do I really feel like I'm confident enough to go and talk about this to someone when I've barely told them anything about myself, where they barely know a lot about me.
So I think with that is like, if you ever do or want to experience actual therapy where you meet someone just completely, you have no idea.
No, I'm too broke.
I also mood, but like some insurance takes it. But
this is why I'm depressed. I'm too broke.
That's an actual crisis in America. But you'll see that everyone goes in with the same mentality.
Yeah.
Even people who are court mandated, who see me, who are my clients, sometimes are like, I don't want to talk about this. And you'll see every single therapist, at least good ones, always go, that's fine. We don't have to talk about it. You're not required to discuss anything in front of us. No, I will say this kind of depends with forensics, but like, you're not required to. You open up on your own time. Being vulnerable, by the way, I agree. It is more of a men issue with opening up. However, it is not limited to you guys. I will say women are sometimes just as stubborn as men in this aspect. But you guys obviously differ in some variation.
It's just how men have been raised.
You guys were
generally.
inclined to be stronger,
Stronger
It'll
mentally.
die out with the
and
old
physically.
generation, if we're being honest.
I
think it'll be
pray.
better.
I pray it does because
the
it's
older
ridiculous.
generation- yeah.
Because you guys are allowed to feel emotions. You guys, I hate the whole stereotype where it's like real men don't cry. I hate it.
Can I be
You're
honest with you? I didn't.
No. Sorry, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
All right, cut the cast. I didn't know we had a men's mental health day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that shot.
Not until
I was like, what?
I got it got
We have a
posted on
women's one?
TikTok.
No, because it's every day.
I,
Every day is
No.
men's.
Genuinely,
I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
genuinely looked at a TikTok and I was like, "What the fuck are they talking about? What men's mental health day?" I
I
thought,
actually didn't know that either.
and I
Well-
thought they were referring to September. I go look at the date.
Do you remember
November 19th is the day. I think is that what it is? I don't remember what day it was.
I can
we
look it
don't
up.
even know.
I don't even know the
It's
day.
not important. That's how.
196, it's the first thing you learn in psychology school.
No,
Yeah.
genuinely, I was like, "What the fuck?" I
That's
never
actually
knew
really
we
cool
had
that
a
they have
day
a
like this, you know.
National thing though.
But
And it's the fact that I looked through those comments. There were so many people that didn't know either. They were like, "We had a men's mental health day."
I
When
just
did
go
it's
this
just
through
a
how
lot
not
more,
discussed
bro.
it is,
But
though.
you gotta show it, right? We could go ahead and post black screens for Black Lives Matter, but if you're still a racist, that black screen did nothing. It's the
Right.
same thing, bro. You could post about men's mental health mattering, but then you're still gonna go out on social media and slander a man.
That's what I'm
Like,
saying.
I think just generally, society just needs to do a little bit better, or be a little bit more like sensitive or aware of like
Yeah, bro.
that everyone can go through hard
Society's
times.
stubborn.
and it's
Society
like, but
is
again,
stubborn.
and then it goes back to the oversaturation of claiming you have mental health problems, and then nobody wants to take you serious. That's
If
the
I'm being
problem,
honest,
bro.
though, psychologists, at least good ones, like they
Are able to
won't.
identify. Or-
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Actually, the more you experience in this field, we have a word called malingering. Malingering means like you're lying about something. Oh well, it's a facade. You're either over exaggerating symptoms or you're like under
You're like,
expressing
"Oh,
that
you
type
know,
of thing.
I'm okay."
Yeah, to
but
fit
like,
a specific criteria. Like sometimes it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
I want to be like schizophrenic today or something like that, or I want to be. And the aspect of like maybe it might advantage them, and sometimes people who have mental disorders will be like, "You're so." Dude,
I'm
I
so
hate
sorry.
that."
That caught me so off guard.
That's all I saw. Oh,
Okay.
There's no way this is being aired out.
Yeah, bro. That is all I have.
Well, she wasn't done.
mhm.
Miss
Uh,
Dr. Bella wasn't
Doctor-
done.
Not doctor.
It's been a pleasure.
Miss.
I appreciate you coming on. Seriously, thank you very much. This was an incredible podcast. I think so. I hope you guys
No,
take
yeah,
some value out of
I
it.
genuinely enjoy talking about this.
This was
It's
nice.
fun
Yeah.
to
This
talk
was nice.
about,
And
you know?
again, at the end of the day, be kinder to one another.
Period.
Do what you can
each
to
other.
better yourself. You will feel so much better in the end. But yeah, overall, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. Any last words you want to give before we end it off?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, just be kinder to one another. We kind of discussed this. Do like small little steps. Ultimately, like you don't have to jump onto the next big goal. You can do small things that make you happy.
Don't burn yourself out.
You exactly.
Yeah.
You mentioned some things where you were basically like, "Hey, maybe make my
Right.
make my bed today, and then tomorrow
Yeah.
maybe I'll put the socks away." I don't know. So small little things like that impact good little
Yeah,
changes. in
small
your
little
life.
things that help you every day.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much for being
you so
on,
much,
Dr.
yeah.
Savina
I
Bello.
appreciate it.
Miss Bello.
Dr. Savina Bello.
Miss
Anyways,
Bello. Miss Savina
Make sure to hit
Bello.
that subscribe button, like button, follow all
Follow
that
the
good stuff in the description below. We will
Instagrams.
see y'all next week. Heatin' Up Podcast is out.